And this will be a good one because it'll be just like short and sweet, maybe like 20 minutes, unless
All
it
right,
goes
welcome
longer.
everybody. Welcome everybody to Home Care Owners Corner. And oh, here we are. Yes. So for those of you who are joining us, we are live. We are definitely live. This is not pre-recorded. This is not a test.
I
All
didn't know
right.
we were live yet. Sorry.
Yes. No, it's fine. It's fine. All right. So hold on. There we go. All right. So tomorrow, at the time of this live stream, tomorrow is Thanksgiving for 2023. So that makes today November 22nd. And in our typical pre-show conversation, Jennifer and I were talking a little bit about, what really makes Thanksgiving important for home care and for the agencies, and how having the right mindset can benefit your business. So You know, um, so before we get started, I want to say I'm grateful to all of you for watching us every week and putting up with all of our shenanigans, and hopefully that you guys are getting some good benefit out of these shows and getting some good value out of it. Judging by some of the viewership and the comments, we thank you all. And I will say though, don't forget, please give us a thumbs up if you do like the videos. And if you're getting some sort of benefit from it, just leave us a comment below. Just tell us where you're watching from, ask a question, just something to let us know that you're there so that so that we know that this is something that you want us to keep doing. All right. And share it with other people that it does help. Now, the last bit of housekeeping, only about 10% of you guys that watch us on a regular basis are subscribed to the channel. So please do that. It really helps out the algorithm, and it helps people get this information that they could use to help grow their business. All of that stuff being said and done, welcome, Jennifer. Thanks again for joining us. And this is so far a lot of fun. So
Yeah, thanks, Julio. I appreciate it. I love coming on. You're
yes,
fun to be with.
awesome, awesome. Good, good, good. So tell me, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And
Okay.
what are your thoughts on just the holiday itself, on what's how in you having been a former agency owner, how did understanding gratitude help you with your businesses?
I think on a nutshell, when I reflect back like on the holiday and what I used to do is I used to just shift, I not even shift my mindset because it was always this way, but on the holidays, I know a lot of business owners get frustrated because they have to answer their
Hmm.
own calls or there's call offs or there's, you're kind of hoping and praying no one calls off a shift because then you're going to be stuck scheduling and things like that. I I used to take the responsibility on myself on the holidays. And once I had a team. So once I had a
Yeah.
full team and I could see where they were working really hard and things like that, I would take the responsibility of the phones, frankly, the whole day. Because I was at that point, I was already well versed in the care management side of things and the scheduling side of things. And so I could really do it very efficiently and very quickly. And I really
Right.
did want my office staff to have a day off. I wanted them to be with their families. I didn't want them to be stressed and having to deal with caregiver issues. And after all, it was my business. And that was my way of making sure that they really got a reprieve from the stresses of home care. So I just took
Yeah.
the holidays on myself. There was a rare occasion where my general manager would take the calls, but it was only when she was really insisting on it. And she was already kind of up to the caliber of almost her mindset was almost ownership mindset.
Mhm.
And she felt compelled that she wanted to give me a break and she would take the calls. So but basically, I was very grateful all the time for them, for my staff, and they worked really hard. And yeah, I just handled the holidays every holiday basically.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree that, having it's important to show your staff that you appreciate them, and
Hmm.
giving them that time off is definitely a big step in the right direction. I mean, having also had agencies in the past and being involved in franchising and everything else, it's one of those things that I think a lot of owners don't understand how important it really is, especially from the perspective of retention, how important it really is to just show your caregivers, show your office staff that you're a human being and that's just happens to be in a position to own the business, but that you care about them and their families.
Yeah.
There's something a raise or a little bit extra money or that Christmas bonus, it's all meaningless because money at the end of the day, while it helps us live, it you know I mean, coming from somebody who grew up very poor, this is something that I used to never understand the concept, but money will only get you so far, and it's essentially meaningless. You're going to have money today, you'll not have it tomorrow, but if especially in a place where you're spending a third of all your waking hours, one third of your entire life is spent at work. It's important to feel valued as a human being, and that is sometimes a lot more important than that extra dollar or 10,000 a year or whatever it is that the bonus and the raise is going to be. And it goes a really long way to do this, having shown that, hey, listen, here, truly take a day off. And one of the things that we used to do for caregivers in particular is we used to give them, like, well, in the Northeast, they have these supermarkets called ShopRite. Okay. They're not really, you don't really find them outside of the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. They're kind of
Uh-huh.
like Kroger's or Safeway, depending on what part of the country you're in. Just
Hmm.
another supermarket chain. So, but it was very popular because, the groceries, they weren't the cheapest, but they weren't the most expensive either.
Hmm.
And they had a good variety in those supermarkets. And what we would do is buy them their Thanksgiving dinner. So taking that off their plate, not in the sense of saying, "Hey, here's $50, go buy a turkey."
Hmm.
We would give them the gift card, and this way it became a non-taxable way to compensate them,
Hmm.
and it became a tax write-off for the business. But the big thing, and this is something that I preach a lot, especially with retention, the big thing that it did is that one, it showed them that you legitimately care about them and their family. And
Hmm.
number two, it resolves an issue. You didn't put $50 in their pocket. You took the stress of worrying about $50 worth of groceries off of their mind.
Hmm.
And that holds a lot more intrinsic value in the long run. And and like I said, that whole mindset of truly being grateful for them being there, because at the end of the day, without the business, they have no work. Without the workers, you have no business. So it's understanding that symmetry that really becomes important.
Yeah. I agree. And
Hmm.
I think the biggest point of gratitude is it's an action. It's action, right? So
Right.
it's what you do, not what you say. I mean, we can say we're
Yes.
grateful for our care staff all day long and our employees all day long, but what are you doing really to show them or show even
Hmm.
yourself that you are truly grateful for them? They are the backbone of your business and the caregivers especially. And so, if we don't give them a break or respect the fact that they have their families and they want to spend, time with their loved ones and all of that, I that's our responsibility. And I feel like, frankly, as business owners, it's our obligation to ensure that they can
Hmm.
do that. And the more we
Exactly.
push on them or pressure on them, um, it's not good. It's not good for company morale. It's not good for company culture. And just for
Right.
you, it's poison. So I
Hmm.
really feel like without gratitude on a daily basis, not just Thanksgiving, I
Right.
feel like it's poison and it'll run through your business
Oh,
like a
yes.
cancer, like a cancer. It really will.
Oh,
It's funny.
absolutely.
I saw a post recently from one of our colleagues out in the industry, and she posted something about the staffing department and how, and I think you chimed in on it.
Hmm.
It was Natalie. and
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
about how we are so hard on the scheduler.
Yes.
And I find that to be true. You know, everybody puts so much
Hmm.
pressure on that scheduler, and the scheduler has probably, arguably, the most difficult, stressful job in the entire agency. You know?
Yes. Yes and no. But I mean, I have very strong mixed feelings about that, but
Ooh,
I do
tell me.
agree. Yeah, well,
That's interesting.
I do believe that the schedulers, they I agree with what the post said,
Yeah.
that sometimes we put all of the pressure on the scheduler without understanding that, you know, there's a lot more than just the scheduler that's involved. Who's doing your recruitment? You know, do you have field staff? Do you have an HR department? You know, what
Mhm.
are you really doing to set your business up properly? And a lot of this comes into play. Um, but at the end of the day, the scheduler, if they're doing their job right, is the face of the company. And this is also the other part of why everything falls on them. So now, where I disagree that sometimes we are just too hard on them, um, no, I do think they're undervalued, but I don't think they're overworked. I think that a lot of times people come into the role of a scheduler and they understand exactly what the job is going to be. And there's a lot of complacency that happens, but that's not a shortcoming on any scheduler in any agency. That's
Mhm.
100% a management deficiency. And that's something that where I think while they carry the blame unnecessarily, the shortcoming is really a management thing, you know, because processes aren't right, rules aren't set in
Yeah,
place,
yeah.
you know, all of this other stuff. So that's kind of where I think, and sometimes again, just just having done this in so many different agencies, you know, not just the two that I've been able to own or the ones working with the franchise. I've seen this. I've probably since probably worked with about 60, 70 agencies, franchise and independent, since 2015. And one thing I have seen time and again, I can't put 100% of the blame on the schedulers, but they tend to get complacent and things get sloppy. Not all the time, but from time to time. And while some hold a higher level of professionalism for themselves,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes it's just I want to plug a hole and just I'll put whatever random body in there and let whoever comes in or whoever's got on call deal with the aftermath. So that's also a little bit on personal accountability. That's why I'm saying I agree in the sense that there's a lot more than just a scheduler involved. But at the end of the day, you know, don't shoot the messenger, but that's just
No,
my observation.
I mean, it makes sense. It really makes sense. I think that the reason why I liked what she had to say so much in the post
Hmm.
is because I really do the times I've worked with agencies and not even just worked with them, I hear them, right? Because you're in the
Hmm.
industry,
Yeah.
like you just hear all the chatter, you hear all the
Yep.
complaining, you hear all the, and a lot of the complaining is from the owners, and they will
Yes.
complain that their scheduler isn't
Agree.
proper scheduling, or they're not doing it the way they would do it, or they're
Yep.
not, you know, they've trained them, but it's not happening. And so to me, I feel like
Hmm.
it is a stressful position
It
because
is. It's extremely
you're
stressful.
hearing all this pressure of you got to staff this hour and what are our billable hours and why did this
Hmm.
person call off and da 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 da. So they're getting questioned a lot. I
Yep.
don't know that they're the face of the agency, because to me, I feel like they should not be. They should be behind the scenes, but they should be in the relationship with the caregiver. And so they have to have a very strong personality, compassion, but
Hmm.
friendly and firm at the same time to be able to
Right.
lead the caregiver and have that rapport with the caregiver to want to work, because the
Right.
caregiver is going to want to work for that scheduler. So when that scheduler is
Right.
calling them and saying, hey, Julio, can you pick up this shift? I think you'd be perfect for this client. And you're the first person
Hmm.
I thought of. The scheduler needs to know how to edify the caregiver enough to build them up, to
Right.
make them inspired to want to work and like them.
Agreed.
But
Right.
that all comes, that's not something that magically I'm sorry, a scheduler is going to have as soon as they walk through the door. They might
Right.
have scheduled experience before, like in a doctor's office,
Mhm.
but it's very different than home care. And it's up to the owner
Mhm.
to train
Yes,
that caregiver, to find the right
agreed.
personality of caregiver and
Mhm.
train that caregiver. If it's not the owner, if there's a chain of command there, then it's whoever the person that they're directly reporting to, that's their responsibility. So if that scheduler isn't doing what you need them to do, to your point,
Mhm.
it's the
Right,
management team, it's leadership, it's whoever that caregiver is. I'm sorry, whoever that scheduler is reporting to. That's
right.
their,
Oh yeah, that's was my point.
it's not the
Mhm.
scheduler's problem. So, but my thing is, you hear
Mhm.
a lot of chatter that it's my scheduler and my scheduler is not doing this and they're not doing that. Well, you got to put a mirror to yourself, because if the scheduler's
Right,
not doing what they need to be doing, you need to check yourself, because either you hired the
right.
wrong person or you're not training them right properly.
Well,
Or wait, I'll end with
mhm.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I'm sorry, I'm on one, I know.
Oh no,
Or
no, it's fine. It's fine.
owner, this is the other problem. That owner is a micromanager. And so that
Mhm.
micromanagement type of an owner is writing that scheduler because they know every billable hour is putting dollars in the company, right?
Right.
But they're a micromanager thinking that they can't, nobody can do it like they can. That's
Mhm.
also a mistake. And
Oh
who
yes,
wants to sit
absolutely.
behind a computer doing their job and having an eyeball on them the whole time and making them feel like they're inadequate or they can't do their job because they're not given the opportunity or the
Right,
training.
right,
So
right.
yeah, but it's a lot of pressure.
It
I
is.
feel like it is.
So, a couple of things, and the reason I'm actually on this very particular topic, and it's fantastic because I'm actually dealing with a client right now, like today, that I was dealing with this for a few days because we're discussing going back and forth whether or not we he should get rid of his scheduler. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So here's where the issue comes in. The scheduler, if you're well, let me clarify first by saying this. I love high touch agencies. I am a big fan of private pay. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to turn a private pay agency, if you're like stuck at that $2 to $3 million and you want to get to that 10 to 20 million private pay, you must be a high touch agency.
Mm-hmm.
The communication with the client and the caregiver and managing that entire process becomes incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, your scheduler is the face of the company because they need to deal with the client when the caregivers call off, and they need to deal with the scheduler, with the caregiver. Excuse me. So what that means is your schedulers need to have the right personality mix to be able to speak to the clients on their level and to be able to speak to your caregivers on their level. And depending on where you are, that and a whole number of other factors, we all know that that could vary greatly.
What size agency are you talking about? You said 2 to 3 million in revenue.
No, I said
Shift
if you're trying to
dynamic.
go from 2 to 3 million up to the 10 to 20 million,
So what
you know,
size agency do you recommend? I'm just curious. What size agency do you recommend the scheduler manage the caregiver and the client process?
any quite frankly, oh my goodness, any agency doing more than 750, more than 750K, you're already should be at the level of growth where you're involving where the level of touch points or the amount of touch points with your
Mm,
caregivers and with your clients.
okay.
I mean, that's a whole different dynamic there. Your schedulers should be running the process, but you should have quality assurance managers that's out there doing the field work, keeping doing that mentorship, doing that on-site visits, doing that type of extra level of touch point. But when there's a call off, why are you adding an extra step? Why should your caregiver is supposed to be there at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
The caregiver calls at 10:10 a.m. Oh yeah, I'm not going to make it. So why should I add in the extra step of having the office manager call the client? Unless it's an irate client, that escalation should not automatically happen. This is
Interesting.
all part of, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's just a structure that I use that I've used very successfully for a number of years.
Okay.
where you're adding layers of escalation to every situation. This way, it even if you're a small agency with only a team of 3 or 4, it gives the
Hmm.
illusion that you're a much bigger organization, and it builds much more confidence in the market.
Interesting. Okay, so follow me with this train of thought. I know we're going off on a
Yeah.
tangent a little bit, but this is actually
Hmm.
important because I think the bigger point is the results are what you're looking for. And so your business model and the way you structure
Hmm.
your agency could
Right.
be whatever is comfortable for you. However, it needs to have the end result that's going to translate to the high touch VIP type experience with the client, right? And the caregiver. And so
Mhm.
flow of processes are very important. So for me, the reason why I said that is because for me, it's different. For me, I feel like it's okay. For me in the beginning, the very early stages, it's cool to have the staffing coordinator deal with the client. But to me, it's a bottleneck if they're dealing too much with the client and dealing with this caregiver too, because if you're growing, they should be scheduling constantly. They should be part of maybe the recruiting process, maybe, or the
Mhm.
interview process to bring
Right.
on new caregivers. But
Mhm.
dealing with the clients, it opens up to me a can of worms because the clients will then talk to that scheduler and ask them everything under the sun that a care
Right.
manager should be fielding, not a scheduler. And
Mhm.
so for me, the scheduler needs to be behind the scenes, dealing directly with the caregiver only on the schedule issues. If someone needs time off, if they're calling off,
Mhm.
if whatever they need with the schedule, they need to be scheduling. That's it. And a care
Right.
manager needs to be the face of for the client experience.
Mhm.
And if that caregiver is calling off, that caregiver should be calling the care manager, not the scheduler. And then the care manager needs to call the scheduler and say, follow up with Jennifer because she's calling off her shift. We need to staff this shift. This is the type of caregiver we need. I'm calling
Okay.
Mrs. Smith and telling Mrs. Smith. So whoever is the face, I get it, but it needs to
Mhm.
be compartmentalized, in my opinion, and a division of labor. So that
Right.
way there's no bottlenecks, and that way there's efficiency. And so for me,
Mhm.
that's what I found works.
Right. Oh no,
But
look, there's
either
more
way
than one way
works.
to skin a cat. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That was my point.
Yes.
As long as
Yeah,
the
yeah.
end result is that everybody's
Mhm.
happy and there is a high touch experience.
Right. See, the on I mean on that note, I have found with the agencies that I've worked with over the years that when you add the extra step, things tend to fall through the cracks. So you'll have a caregiver that may be with a client, and if something happens along the way,
Mhm.
now the scheduler may know they may have 5 different people calling in at the same time. Things aren't getting handled properly. And this is why I think that I mean, way oversimplifying it when I'm describing it in this conversation. There needs
Yeah,
to be an entire system in place. There has to be an efficient communication system. But
right.
efficiency doesn't always lead to effectiveness.
Mhm.
Okay, and I think that there's a big difference between the two. So when you're talking about, hey, your caregiver called out, here it is. If this is and the division of labor that you're talking about, and the method that I usually do this is you have a person in the office that would be like what you're describing as the client care manager or the director of client services or whatever it is that the position is called. They um there are pressure valves that would involve them, and it gives that illusion of escalation. So if my caregiver's calling out, she's dealing with the scheduler. Great. If there's a communication breakdown between them and upper, now it falls on the scheduler. But if you are doing, your average scheduler should be able to effectively communicate, okay, with both caregiver and client. And then you'll just expand your scheduling team. So an average scheduler or client care coordinator should be able to manage about 60 clients before they achieve burnout. All right, with their full schedule, however many caregivers that may entail. And then you have exceptional ones that can handle as many as 75 or 80 clients. Okay. And
So wait, I
now
have a
if you
question.
have the right structures in place,
I have a
yes,
question for what you just said. So
yes.
so you do it per client, not per by billable hours per week.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's because you're managing schedules.
Yeah, but
So
you're managing the schedules based on the billable hours, right? So
correct.
what's their capacity for managing billable hours? Can they imagine 1,000 hours? Can they manage 2,000 hours? Is it 500? Because the client could have 2 hours a week, or they could have 24-hour care. So if
Right.
they have
It'll be
24-hour
irrelevant.
care, there's more maintenance to that client than there is the four
And
hour, right?
uh, not if things are done effectively. See,
Mm.
if things are done effectively, a 2 hour a week client will require the same amount of work as managing six caregivers under a 24/7 client. It all depends on how you have your things structured internally.
Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can have an off stream conversation on
No,
that,
I
or
know.
we
I
can
don't know
do
why
this
this,
into a whole.
but the bottom line is you got to appreciate these people.
Yes, yes. The bottom line is
You got to have gratitude for them.
they are extremely hardworking, many of them.
Are.
The good ones especially, and
Yeah.
they do need to be appreciated. I mean, um, I said the nuances of how it's done. I mean, I've heard as little as that a caregiver, that I'm sorry, that a scheduler shouldn't have to manage more than I think somebody told me once 250 hours. I'm like, 250 hours you should be able to do in your sleep. If, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
so that's what, three, four clients. So it
Yeah.
depends. There's a like I said, how you define a client, how you define the workload, it really depends. And the division of labor can just really get phenomenal.
Well, it's interesting too, because a scheduler too, if we're talking about the scheduler, it's interesting because they are going to have a better experience with their scheduling if they're a proactive mindset instead of a
Yep,
reactive mindset, right? So like,
exactly.
or their tactics and the way they staff, because the
Yes,
proactive, you're not really putting out fires, you're predicting, what the
correct.
client, you're anticipating what the needs are for the caregiver and the clients. And
Yep,
so you're not really putting out fires. You're kind of already on top of things, right? But a
right,
reactive scheduler is constantly putting out fires, constantly
right.
fielding calls, call offs, constantly, constantly, constantly. But that
And
again falls on the management and the leadership
exactly. That's what I was
because
just getting ready to say.
it
Because
just
if you
does.
have a good systems in place inside your organization, if you have
Mhm.
the SOPs, if you have the right job descriptions, if you have everything else in place that you need to run an effective organization, then none of this will be relevant. Then you could
Yeah,
very literally take somebody who's got all the bad habits in the world. Like I said, this is a situation I'm currently dealing with.
yeah.
The they it's a mid-sized agency that hired someone away from a very large national franchisor. And the method that you're describing is what they're used to, dealing with just the caregiver, not the client, and things are falling apart because the expectation of work
See?
is not what's actually happening. And now things are falling through the cracks, clients are not being communicated with, and that has
Mhm.
actually led to a number of bad bad reviews online and a whole
Really? Wow, I haven't
yeah,
found
oh
that.
yeah.
I haven't found that at all. And especially with the bigger agencies. I
Hmm.
just haven't found that at all. But the reason why I feel like if we put ourselves, like for me, if we put ourselves in the client experience or the caregiver
Hmm.
experience, well, really the client experience, we put ourselves in those shoes, it's kind of like if you're really wanting like a Four Seasons kind of experience with your home care agent,
Hmm.
it's I equate it to you have a concierge and that concierge knows
Yes,
everything. And if
right.
you have
And
an
you
issue
should
with
have that.
anything, if you have an issue with anything, your billing, yes, you're going to go to the billing department at some point, but it starts with the concierge and
Yep,
it's kind of that white glove touch of
yep.
okay, your caregiver, like if I had it, if I was the client and my caregiver called off, I don't want to know the pre-flight information. I just want to know when we're taking off. So I want my one person that signed me up that I know is my manager and my coordinator to call me and tell me what time the replacement's coming. And I want to have that information
Mm-hmm.
before my caregiver was supposed to arrive and then give me the option whether I want a replacement or not. And one person. That's it.
Hmm.
And so for me, that concierge person or that care management person is behind the scenes working with the staffing department and behind the scenes working with the new caregiver to know what the
Right.
details are of my case and da 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 da. You know what I'm
No,
saying? So that's
and I
I
get it. I
kind of
get it.
come from that. I kind of come from that
And
mind. I
I and again, one some of the earlier agencies I worked in actually did it that way. And over the years, okay, I found, like I said, there's a difference between efficient and effective. Okay.
Mhm.
What you're describing is a very efficient system. Okay. What I have found though is that that can, if not properly managed, it all depends on the
Man,
upper management, the people
that's true.
that you
That's
don't
true.
ever see. So if you have good upper management, that can potentially work. But what that does is that it creates a situation where you don't have depth. Okay. And when you lose that depth of agency, you run the risk of so many of your clients being dependent on the relationship with that one care manager that
Mhm.
it will create a situation where you will forever be afraid to get rid of a bad employee. If that employee ever turns lazy,
Really.
ever turns bad, everything like that. Just again, it's a matter of experience. I've seen it happen to
I
where
think
it's
it's
been a
how you
great
manage.
relationship,
I
and I've
think it's how
seen,
you manage it. And if you have two or
of
three
course,
care managers, they should all be versed in every case. And
agreed. There
you
should be
own
care manager meetings every
exactly,
day. You
exactly,
know,
exactly,
but
exactly.
again, it all comes down to upper management. So if you don't have that solid structure at the top, the rest of the organization falls apart.
Hmm.
But building those layers also minimizes your risk. Think of it like insurance. When companies are selling you insurance, they're looking to mitigate the risk. So
Yeah.
if you put these layers in place, you're mitigating the risk, and you've never put yourself into a situation where one employee can damage your business. The also on your note, if you have solid care managers, you don't even need sales teams because your care management team will do a lot of your sales. It's a concept I call soft marketing. You don't ever actually need aggressive business developers out there. Your care management team will
Agree.
be able to grow your business.
Yeah, I agree because the care
So,
managers can go out and have the rapport and the relationship with this with the
correct,
referral sources because they're
right,
following up on Mrs. Smith that was discharged and now is under our care, right?
correct. If they're
So
doing if again,
you
if
know
they
what we
you have the
should
right
do,
processes in
Julio?
place.
You know what we should do? We should do a whole hour of 30 minutes on a business model that you, from your experience, you've seen very successful. And then I'll do 30 minutes on the business model that I've also seen. So that there's two different types. So that way people don't think there's just one size fits all.
Yeah, no, there's not. I
And that
mean,
way, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a really good idea because I feel like, because we both consult, we both do this, we've both seen
right,
successful, not successful situations. But I wonder
exactly.
if, and every owner is different. So every owner might vibe with your way of doing it, and some owners might vibe with the way I do it. And it'd be kind of
Right.
cool to highlight both to
Yeah.
see, you know what I mean? Like it may not be just different flavors, I guess, of
Oh yeah,
structure.
yeah, no, no, it's I agree. One of the things that should actually we can well we can again we could talk about it after we're not live. Yeah, but this would be we would have to break it down department by department because I get so much crazy detail. That's I
I
mean
do
it
too.
yeah
I do
because it
too.
really
I agree
like
because I feel like there's 5 or 6 different departments.
yes, oh I agree wholeheartedly. I mean if you're going from ownership down,
Yeah.
you know, the at the end of the day, I believe that no owner should have to work more than about 20 hours a month on their business.
Yeah,
You
agreed.
know,
Agree with that too.
that's yeah, there's all matters of ways of getting it done.
Yeah.
But I yeah, we are almost out of time. It was awesome as always. All right. So join us again next week and we will have a less rushed topic next week. And you know, thank you all again for joining us. You know, the handful of you that watch us live, and for those of you watching the replay, We appreciate your support and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with us and learn a little bit about how to grow your home care agency. Don't forget, please subscribe if you haven't already and share this with others so that they can, so they can benefit as well. Now, if you have any topics that you want us to go into on a deep dive, please leave us a comment on the video, on the YouTube video in particular. Get alerts on this right away, and this way we can exactly see, what you guys want us to go over and what you want us to talk about. All right, we can help you all the way through if you're a new agency or if you're trying to break the ceiling or even sell and walk away from a $30 million agency. We're here for you. All right. So take care of